It was Halloween 2020 when Adema entered the studio to record their album, 360 Degrees of Separation. At this time, the band still had Ryan filling in for vocals and Tim and Mike handling guitars, respectively. Chris had just finished laying down the drum track for a as of yet unreleased song known as The Line Has Been Crossed, and the rest of the band sat in the listening room when suddenly, as the room began to fill with silence, someone entered unannounced. The person appeared to be around 5'7" and 180 pounds, with long blonde hair, and wearing what appeared to be a maroon tutu, like the kind a ballerina wears, covered in what appeared to be some kind of excrement and filth. The person's face, clearly altered by years of plastic surgeries, was unrecognized by Tim and the rest of the group. However, he recognized one thing almost on a subconscious level. This was not the first time he had stared into these eyes. "Who are you?" shouted Dave. The man-like creature stared almost soulless, but with a hint of sadistic joy. "Don't you remember me?" Suddenly, the strange entity began to sob and mutter incoherent words, as if on the onset of a psychological breakdown. Tim, Dave, and Mike got up to escort the strange man out, when suddenly his words began to make sense. With a soft snarl-like sound, he spoke, words that froze the entire band in place. "I wanted to know who you really are. I needed the chance to stitch up my scars. I'm closer to you than I was in the start. Come dive right in. Come tear me apart," finished Ryan. It had become very clear that the entity standing in front of them was indeed a man they knew very well, someone they had spent years with, and someone they had built an entire career with. It was none other than Mark Javis, the original singer of Adema. Whatever caused Mark to be in this state wasn't clear, but without a doubt, he was very unwell. Ryan approached Mark cautiously, with genuine concern and respect as he whispered, "Marky, what happened to you?" Suddenly, Mark dropped to the floor and hunched over and repeated in a sick series of screams,
"Come tear me apart, come tear me apart, come tear me apart, come tear me apart, come tear me apart."
Chris had walked in with no context of what was happening and tried to help what he presumed was a woman having a full-on psychological breakdown. But Mark stood up and turned to face him with a mix of rage and sadistic bloodlust in his eyes, and pushed him out the door and into the hallway violently. The rest of the band acted fast and pulled Mark off Chris, but Mark overpowered them, throwing them all as if they were mere toys. Without any warning, Mark tackled Ryan and sunk his teeth into his shoulder, shredding into his muscle with unnatural ease. Ryan screamed and pleaded for mercy, but suddenly Mark stopped as if distracted by something unseen. The band lay there petrified and stunned as Mark stormed off without any warning and bolted out of the recording studio as quickly as he had arrived. Dave applied pressure to Ryan's wound, and the band spent the next 4 years trying to deny that this night ever happened. But years later, in 2024, Ryan started to begin to paint his nails, and not one of the members of the band muttered a single word about this night in 2020. But when he departed, it was very obvious to them what had happened. And I think now we all know exactly what happened to Mark Chavis.